Hey, it's great to see all of you, and it's really great to be here with you today. We're all here for one reason, and you know what that is. We all care about America. No matter where you come from to be here today, or how you made it to this room, we all gather here just as patriots have always gathered in our country, united in our love of country and perseverance of our great freedoms. This is the year we make a true and honest and real difference in this country, between more freedom and less, between a greater nation or not. You know, Justice Scalia, that's the type of difference that Justice Scalia made. With eloquence, Justice Scalia defended the fundamental freedom guaranteed to every American in a very real and personal way. He defended that liberty given to each one of us at our birth by our Creator. Justice Scalia, and I don't have to tell you this, you all know it, he was a monumental jurist, and he was a hero of American freedom. He was also an avid sportsman and shooter. And I'll tell you this, he was a darn good wing shot. He was also a true friend to America's 100 million gun owners and the 5 million men and women of the National Rifle Association of America. We all mourn him, and we miss him. The thought of President Obama replacing Justice Scalia is harrowing. But I'll tell you this, the thought of the next president putting perhaps 2 or more justices on the bench should scare the hell out of all of us. And here's someone already planning for that day.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dave, I do have a litmus test. I have a bunch of litmus tests because I agree with you. The next president could get as many as 3 appointments. You know, one of the many reasons why we can't turn the White House over to the Republicans again is because of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, you got it. You know, Hillary Rodham Clinton couldn't pass a polygraph, but she's already got a litmus test. And you know what? She flunks both. We can't all sit on the Supreme Court and make the kind of difference that Justice Scalia made. But if we follow his simple advice, we can make an incredible difference, even change the course of our entire country in this next election. Here it is, real simple, in Scalia's own words. The only article in faith that plays any part in my judging is the commandment, thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not lie. In a time when all of us are bombarded with media agenda and their web of spin and political conniving, the very best and most effective and surest way to defend freedom is found in those 4 words, thou shalt not lie. I talk to people all over America, and I'm out there almost every week on the road somewhere in this country. They're fed up. Good, honest folks worry themselves sick about the future of their families, the future of their country, while we watch self-serving political and media elites rig and game the system for their own personal wealth and their own personal power. We're disgusted with the lies, all of us are. We're enraged. We're so outraged that it's game over in this country for the liars. You know, this election year proves the rage of the American people to be real and to be powerful. Candidates, strategists, and pundits are learning this year that telling it like it is brings success. Straight talk brings rewards. Heck, you know, that's something I learned in kindergarten. Truth counts. Truth matters. Truth endures. History proves that if you give the American people the straight truth, they will choose honest freedom every single time. That's why for decades the NRA has been the guiding light for American gun owners and those who treasure our constitutional freedoms in this country. The Second Amendment, it guarantees all of our freedoms. And we are unafraid of honest debate. We're unapologetic in going toe-to-toe with anyone who gets between us and those freedoms. Yet, while so many of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms have been diminished over the last 7 years, Second Amendment freedoms, thanks to people like you all over this country, has been expanded. And NRA membership, and yeah, I applaud that too, we all do. And NRA membership and favorability among the American public has grown to record levels. Why? Because when it comes to telling the truth and fighting for our fundamental freedoms, no one fights harder, longer, or stronger than the NRA. We do it together every single time. We speak the hard truth that no one else will. And when it comes to speaking out and defending those rights and freedoms that are ours, the NRA will never, and I mean never, back down. You can count on that. You know, we've been exposing the liars about our freedom for decades, telling the truth that most Americans know in their hearts to be right. Let me give an example. Back in the early 90s, the Clintons pushed one anti-gun scheme after another, restrictions that only affected law-abiding people. So I debated then Congressman Charles Schumer back then on national television. Yeah, I know. He's a piece of work, isn't he? Yeah, always been. Way back then, I described our broken mental health system and argued that the records of those adjudicated mentally incompetent and dangerous should be included in a background check. Watch this old video and see if you can catch Schumer's deceit.
Are you in favor of computerizing the mental health records of people into a national computer bank?
You bet I am.
Well, can we join hands on that and go to Capitol Hill right now? Will you shake on it with me? Because last year you guys were against it.
That was more than 20 years ago. I know, it looks like it too, doesn't it? Yeah. You know, the congressman, he shook my hand, went back to his office, and then he did nothing. To this day, Schumer and Obama and Hillary Clinton have still done nothing, nothing, to ensure that the records of those adjudicated mentally incompetent and dangerous are part of the National Instant Check. But they sure try every day to restrict the rights of law-abiding people like all of you in this room today by imposing laws that they have no intention of enforcing against the bad guys. The NRA, we've always fought back, and we beat them back. And how do? We do it with the truth every single time. President Clinton attacked lawful gun owners. He claimed the NRA was to blame for crime. We told the truth about crime and the politics of the Clinton White House. That the president, who let federal prosecutions of gun crimes drop to near historic lows, seemed willing to tolerate a certain level of violence to further his political agenda. The media, I'll tell you, they went nuts, pressuring me to back down, pressuring me to apologize. Watch this.
Mr. LaPierre, the world's watching.
Absolutely.
An American citizen, the head of the NRA, is saying that the President and Vice President of the United States tolerate killing for political reasons. Is that what you're saying?
All I'm saying,
Is that what
Tim,
you're
is
saying?
I need a good answer from them as to why they won't prosecute.
But are you
If
saying they tolerate killings for political
Tim,
purposes?
the effect of their policy by not taking the drug dealer with a gun, the violent felon with a gun, and the gang member with a gun off the street is somebody later gets killed. If they would pick them up under the existing federal law that they have right now on the books and throw them in the federal penitentiary, they would save lives.
You believe the president uses killing for political purposes and has blood on his hands?
Tim, all I know is he could save lives, and the chairman,
why can't you just say yes?
The chairman of the Democratic National Committee said that if they would put the program, Wayne and the NRA are trying to get around the country, it would save lives.
Some people think you're using this hot rhetoric in order to increase your membership and raise money. Do you believe it or not?
I'm using this hot rhetoric because I'm trying to get people to focus on the fact these guys in the White House, while they want a lot more gun laws, they refuse to enforce the gun laws on the books against the drug dealers, the gangs, and the violent felons, and they're the ones doing the killings.
You stand by your comments?
I stand by the fact that they're not enforcing the law.
You stand by your comments?
It's not an issue of Wayne's rhetoric.
Why can't you say yes or no?
Because you guys in the media want this to be Wayne's rhetoric versus the White House.
No.
And what it ought to be is on the lack of prosecutions out of this administration.
We here at Meet the Press want to hold you accountable for your comments. Do you stand by your comments?
I stand by my comments that if this administration would enforce the federal law, they'd save lives, and they're not doing it, while they call for a lot more laws.
Yeah. We fought back with the truth about Clinton's lack of enforcement of the federal gun laws that were on the books. And guess what happened that year? NRA membership soared. Our popularity greater than the president or both chambers of Congress. And most of all, gun owners in Arkansas, Florida, West Virginia, Tennessee, and all over this country went to the polls and voted their freedom first. And when that happened, Al Gore went away and George W. Bush went to the White House. Honest debate matters. That's a lesson the national news media never learns, especially when it comes to the truth about firearms. In 2003, the old failed Clinton gun ban was about to expire. CNN violated all journalistic standards trying to save the ban on semi-automatic firearms by airing a video of fully automatic machine guns that had nothing whatsoever to do with the legislation we were debating. I just happened to be in the studio when they aired that video. Take a look at this.
Now we give you the other side from the Executive Vice President of the National Rifle Association, Wayne LaPierre. Wayne, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Kara. Good to be with you.
Well, if the ban on assault weapons expires, what kind of weapons would be legal?
Kara, let me say this at the start. I'm glad you ran that story, because apparently the only difference between the New York Times and CNN is that when a reporter for the New York Times fakes a story, he's fired, and at CNN, he's not. Your bureau chief, John Zarrella, deliberately faked a story yesterday intending to show that the performance characteristics of banned firearms on the list are somehow different from the performance characteristics of firearms not on the ban list. He was implying that these were machine guns or fully automatic guns. That's not true.
Mr. LaPierre, I have to stop you there. No one fakes stories at CNN, and John Zarrella definitely did not fake a story at CNN. You're very off base. I'm going to let you say your opinion, and let's have a conversation, but don't accuse our reporter of faking any story, sir.
Let me say it again in front of the whole country. Your reporter faked that story yesterday. It deliberately misread the viewer. There's no way it could be true, and I'm telling CNN to defend it. Yeah. You know, CNN finally admitted that I was right, and they ran a correction. But the sad thing is, millions of viewers were deceived. And the deal is, if I hadn't caught them red-handed, like a bank robber running out of the bank with a bag of dye exploding all over the bank robber, they would have never ran that correction, and they would continue to be holding up that lie as truth. No wonder trust in the media is at the lowest level in history in this country. We, all of us, the American people, are fed up. We've had enough of agenda-driven journalists who refuse to tell the truth. Truth does prevail, especially during our nation's most troubling times. When a deranged monster murdered 26 young children and teachers in Newtown, NRA members mourned with the nation. And we were attacked again, blamed again, for a tragedy that had nothing to do with lawful gun ownership. So I stood before the nation and spoke the simple truth that ignited a firestorm among the media and the political elites.
Worse, they perpetuate the dangerous notion that one more gun ban or one more law imposed on peaceable, lawful people will protect us, where 20,000 other laws have failed. As brave and heroic and as self-sacrificing as those teachers were in those classrooms, and as prompt and professional and well-trained as those police were when they responded, they were unable, through no fault of their own, unable to stop it. As parents, we do everything we can to keep our children safe. It's now time for us to assume responsibility for our schools. The only way to stop a monster from killing our kids is to be personally involved and invested in a plan of absolute protection. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
You know, that day, I simply and honestly proposed that our schools, our children, should be protected at least as much as our jewelry stores, our banks, and our sports stadiums, or maybe the Oscars in Hollywood the other night. The national news media, they savaged me. Yet what parent wouldn't feel safer dropping their kids off at a school with a police car out front? The national media and the politicians, they set their hair on fire over it. Screaming and screeching, they called me just about every evil, nasty name in the book. But you know what happened? In state legislatures, in school districts, all over this country, the American people began implementing what I proposed, placing trained armed security in their schools. They didn't wait for Congress or the president to act. They took matters right in their own hands to protect their own children. As a result, millions of children go to school today no longer the sitting ducks of the worst and most dangerous of all lies, gun-free zones. The news media, the news media, protected by their own armed security, they never admit it. But today, millions of children are safer for one reason: the NRA. The overwhelming majority of Americans agree with the simple truth that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. The politicians and the media be damned. A couple of months ago, President Obama participated in a so-called town hall. Denigrating lawful gun owners, attacking the NRA, and attempting to advance his own agenda. At one point, a young woman who had been brutally raped mustered the courage to stand and tell the president her story and express her belief in owning a gun for protection. The president lectured her, implied that she wasn't really trained enough and capable enough of defending herself with a firearm. Mr. President, no woman should be left to face evil with empty hands. And to all of America's women, you aren't free if you aren't free to defend yourself. And if President Clinton, President Obama, let's not move ahead to President Clinton did the same thing, though. If President Obama, Hillary Clinton, or anyone else denies you that right, they don't really care about you at all. It's your right to protect yourself, and don't ever let anyone take it away from you. The president went to that town hall to call out the NRA. But I'll tell you, NRA answered right back. Take a look. That is why we won't get suckered into any of Obama's fixed fights.
There's a reason why the NRA is not here. They're just down the street.
You're saying you would welcome to meet with the NRA?
Anderson, I've said this repeatedly. I'm happy to meet with them. I'm happy to talk to them. But the conversation has to be based on facts and truth.
Mr. President, pre-screened questions that lead to your long-winded answers are anything but an honest dialogue. But I'll tell you what, I'll meet you for a one-on-one, one-hour debate with a mutually agreed-upon moderator on any network that will take it. No pre-screened questions and no gas bag answers. Americans will judge for themselves who they trust and believe on this issue, you or the NRA. Let's see if you're game for a fair debate. It's your chance to show the American people you're not afraid to meet the NRA on neutral ground. You know the deal. The president has yet to respond. And guess what? He's just down the street. Yeah. I wonder if he's afraid of the truth. The truth that during his presidency, and listen to this, because the American news media, they don't tell the American public this. The truth that during his presidency, federal prosecutions of gun crimes have dropped dramatically. The truth that in his own hometown, over 400 Chicagoans have been shot already this year. Compared to this time a year ago, the homicide rate in Chicago has risen 100%. 100%. Does that sound like a number anybody can be proud of? Mr. President, you own Chicago, and that failure is on you. The Obamas and the Clintons and all the rest of them never get to seem the most basic truth. They never seem to get it. The most basic truth of all. Right there. You know what? I hung that sign on our building way back in 1993 when the Clintons ran the White House. Sad to say, 23 years later, as we sit here today in this room, it's deja vu all over again. Same old Clintons, same old message. It's the criminals, stupid. Don't you ever get it? President Obama, you know, he brags about what he accomplishes with a pen and a phone, but he refuses to pick up either and order his U.S. attorneys to flip Chicago upside down and prosecute every drug dealer with a gun, gang member with a gun, violent felon with a gun to the fullest extent of the existing federal gun laws. If he did that, that would save lives. That would make Chicago safer. But he won't do that. That doesn't fit his political agenda to attack the NRA, propel Hillary Clinton into the White House, and destroy the Second Amendment and our personal freedom forever. It's dishonest, that's corrupt, and we Americans see right through all the Obama-Clinton schemes because we know a liar when we see one. We also know a political coward when we see one. You know, President Obama, he's never going to debate me on guns. His knowledge of that issue couldn't fill a thimble, and he knows it. I would clean his clock, and he knows it. So he'll keep hiding behind his podium in rigged appearances, like all the other truth-dodging politicians, and then he'll lecture us on what's wrong with our rights, while day by day, all over this country, more and more people grow more and more disgusted, enraged, and determined to just throw them all out. And then there's Hillary Rodham Clinton. Yeah. She's been clear about one thing. She hates the Second Amendment. She hates us. And she's coming after every single bit of our freedom.
I will stand up to the gun lobby, and we will fight to get common sense gun safety measures. I will stand up to the gun lobby, and we will fight to get common sense gun safety measures.
Ms. Clinton, if you want to come after the NRA, and if you want to fight over the God-given rights of America's 100 million gun owners, if you want to turn this election into a bare-knuckled brawl for the survival of our constitutional freedoms, bring it on. We aren't going anywhere, and we aren't hard to find. Mrs. Clinton, we are the millions of honest, decent citizens all over this country. We love our nation. We cherish our freedom. And in November, we're bringing the fight to you. All of us here today and all over this country have a common cause: our freedom and our future. We can and we must fight for it. Americans all over this country have declared that this election is not going to be about the politicians. We've decided that it's going to be about me. It's going to be about my life. It's going to be about my freedom. This is my election, and I'm taking my country back. This election must set our nation back on its rightful course, where individual freedom is respected, justice is restored, laws are enforced, government gets off our backs and leaves us the hell alone, and elected officials start telling us the truth. This is a time to rise up and make a difference. So will you stand up for America? Come on, will you rise up and fight as hard as you can to save our country? Will you stand up for truth and freedom? Let us all vow on this day, we will elect our next president. We will stand and fight with all we've got. We will save our country and take our freedom back. Let's do it together in November. The power is ours, and we can save this country. Thank you very much.